Hey everyone, and salutations from Bean. Sometimes in life, we can be cheap and not want to spend our money on things. It's only natural that we as humans want the best bargain for our hard-earned cash, especially when you have a hobby as expensive as collecting video games. These things cost a fortune. New releases are getting normalized to be $70, and Nintendo pretty much just prices all their crap for $60, no matter how worth it actually is. Even retro games are climbing the market. They're getting as expensive as a new game. This economy blows! Anyways, we've gotten our fair share of deals throughout the years. You've got your SNES Classic Editions, Pikmin 1 and 2s, the Uncharted Nathan Drake Collection, this printer, and water. Not again! The point is, we want as many compilations of games as we can get. But I believe there's one game that set the standard for all of these packages. Super Mario All-Stars for the Super Nintendo. This game right here has to be one of my favorite games of all time. I mean, just look at it! Yeah, it's pretty great. But how did it get this way? What prompted Nintendo to make this masterpiece? And to all you people that don't even know what this game is, get out. If you know anything about the history of Mario, heck, even just video games, you know that in the 80s, Super Mario Bros. Was a huge success. Launching with the NES in 1985, it began the tetralogy of Mario's 8-bit adventures. And it deserved it. This game is still fairly solid to this day. One of mine, and I'm sure pretty much everybody's go-to NES games. After its release, Nintendo employees started creating some more difficult levels, enjoying it so much that they turned it into an entire game. Super Mario Bros. 2, released in 1986. Not this Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 2. Everybody loves Super Mario Bros. 2. I don't. This tale is as old as time. This Mario 2 is Japanese exclusive, the one that's known for its hard levels and unoriginality. This game was denied an American release because it's lame and difficult, and I can't beat it. But this left Nintendo scrambling. They needed a sequel to their most successful game in America, and fast. So, they reskinned a game called Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic. You probably already know that. Give me time! This is the Mario 2 you are likely aware of, but it's a common debate in the Mario community whether or not this is a Mario game at heart. What's my opinion? I don't know. However, several of the Mario 1 developers worked on this game, like Shigeru Miyamoto, Takashi Tezuka, and Koji Kondo, so... With the Mario 2 debacle finished, Nintendo was hard at work on Super Mario Bros. 3, releasing in 1988 in Japan. Yes! But there's another problem. There was a very prominent chip shortage in America at the time, so Nintendo definitely could not produce the demanded amount of games in time. America had to wait 2 years for Mario 3 to release, apart from in some Play Choice 10 cabinets. This 2-year wait created some of the biggest hype for a video game ever. With Mario 2 also releasing that same year in America, in '88, everyone was pumped. The hype was so big, an entire movie was made just to promote the game. I watched it, it was bad, but it just goes to show how insane this lead up was. And on February 12th, 1990, Super Mario Bros. 3 released. Wow. This game is still highly regarded as one of, if not the best games ever made. If you ask someone what the best NES game is, chances are they would say one of two things. Either or Mario 3. It still astonishes me how much Nintendo could fit onto one NES cartridge compared to Mario 1. Insane. However, after development of that finished up, Nintendo's next console, the Super Nintendo, was being worked on, so they knew a sequel to Mario 3 had to be created. So Mario 4 started development before Mario 2 USA even released? Okay, that's kinda weird. But in 1991, it released as Super Mario World. This and Mario 3 are very close in terms of greatness for me. I usually lean towards Mario World, but, you know, it changes every day. Just talk to me on Tuesday about it. Anyways, I'm sure Nintendo was very proud of themselves that they got a Mario game out on their new console in time. But there's never enough Mario, so this is where the story of Super Mario All-Stars begins. After the release of Super Mario Kart on the SNES in 1992, Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto suggested making a value pack of all the previous Mario games, just on one tiny SNES cartridge. He also saw it as a chance to release the first Mario 2 in America for the first time ever, so development on what was named Mario Extravaganza began. In Japan on July 14th, in North America on August 11th, and in Europe on December 16th, 1993, Super Mario All-Stars also known as Super Mario Collection in Japan, was released to the world. But what just is Super Mario All-Stars? Well, described by former Nintendo president Satoru Iwata, it was a single game cartridge packed full of the first 10 years of Nintendo's rich history. This wasn't just a compilation of Mario's 4 8-bit games. It was a remake of all of them. It was an event. And the marketing campaign treated it as such. Look at these ads. Mario and friends walking across the red carpet. Nintendo knew how big this game was. Unfortunately, I wasn't alive at the time that this came out on the SNES. Bam! That's one thing I have in common with this Apple. Are you happy? So I'm gonna go and look back on the full package of Super Mario All-Stars. We open on a scene with Mario and friends talking. They do that?! I've always been a fan of this title screen, but part of me has also thought before the lights go on it's kinda ominous. Not too much, but not seeing any characters and the weirdly realistic crowd talking sound effects at play. I don't know why, but it's just kinda weird. Anyways, here's the menu, sporting a blue background and 4 main options. Super Mario Bros., Mario 2, Mario 3, and Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. What is that? Don't worry, I answered this in my NIT application. The Lost Levels makes my life easier. And how, you may ask? Well, instead of Nintendo making everyone call every living thing Mario 2, they renamed the Japanese exclusive one Mario The Lost Levels because they are really hard to find. Well, let's start how every person with integrity should. Super Mario Bros. Upon pressing start on each game, you get a black menu popping up with 4 save slots. That's right, this game lets you save. A great improvement already. With save batteries being more commonly available for SNES cartridges, now you don't have to either leave your console on all night or play extra video games. Thank God! Anyways, let's start a new file here, and wowie! I mean, like I said previously, each game was given new 16-bit graphics and sound, and right off the bat, there are tons of differences here. Mario has brighter colors, the background is more detailed, they added purple to the logo, I'm colorblind, this looks incredible! Also, a new song, exclusively for this title screen, was added. Being a remix of the underwater theme, pretty neat instead of being completely silent. But the old one I thought was gonna die at 23, but nah, I guess I'm fine. Throughout the game, there are tons of small changes everywhere, whether it's a sprite change, animation change, or gameplay feature. Although it is noted that none of these games have large differences in gameplay, I have the prior knowledge that the original game's code was copied and then changed from there. But even if you didn't know that when coming in, you could tell that this has, for the most part, the exact same feel to the controls as the original Mario 1. Yippee. One of the biggest gameplay changes actually affects speedruns quite a bit. In the NES version, you could jump over piranha plants due to their small hitbox, which especially helped in 4-1. But in All-Stars, the hitbox extends to the head of the plant, so you get hit when touching it. Nintendo also patched out several glitches as you'd expect, like the Minus World and the small Fire Mario glitch, but left in helpful tricks, like the Infinite 1-Up glitch, but these aren't even normally encountered while playing anyways, so it isn't too big of a deal. While I played through this version, I gained more and more respect for what Mario 1 did to the gaming community as a whole. And while I'm not really a big fan of replaying that game, All-Stars was the first time I was able to finish all 32 levels without skipping through the warp zones. And that's just because it's fun to play. The more charming graphics and smoother experience always resonated with me more. And just in general, the developers did a great job keeping the exact feel of the original while improving upon it in almost every single way. For example, just small changes like adding Goomba pillars into this level's background, making Mario do a little peace sign when he enters the castle, or my favorite addition, changing the Toad animation completely based on what world you save them in. In the first world, one Toad jumps up and down. In World 4, you just get a stack of them. Some of these legitimately caught me off guard because of how silly they were, like these 7 mini Toads and these 6 under the mushroom. Just little touch-ups like these all add together and make this a great experience for me. I lied. This version is incredible, no doubt. The devs didn't need to add half of the changes that they did, but yet, they still went up and beyond just to allow a new generation of players experience Super Mario Bros. But it has its shortcomings, and weirdly enough, they both involve bricks. My first nitpick is that in 8-3, there's this one brick block that may not seem too special, but due to the new and frankly worse and more distracting background in All-Stars, it doesn't blend into the brick wall that the original version had. This is the worst complaint anyone has ever given, but this second one is actually something I swear. Throughout playing, it is extremely easy to notice that when Mario breaks a brick block, there's some really weird stuff going on here. In the original, he bounces back from the hit, which is great, But in All-Stars, there's weird physics, like he keeps accelerating up like the brick was never there. This makes a section like this one in 4-2 quite harder to perform without getting hit, as the brick physics keep you in the air for longer than you need to be. And what adds insult to injury is that this problem has been fixed by fans, and has been proven to be just a tiny oversight by the developers. How didn't they notice this is my question, especially since they literally took the code from the original? But sadly, this is somewhat of a deal breaker to me. It sounds dumb, but adding on other reasons, I just usually go back to the NES version more than this. This is honestly mostly because it's re-released more than All-Stars. But also, I've grown up attached to the NES graphics. And while the SNES ones are literally better in every single way, it's hard to get rid of that previous bias on Super Mario Bros. And all that combined with a stupid brick issue, I usually end up revisiting the NES one more. And no snow theme or revamped bonus room can fix that. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this game has new bonus areas. Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. However, that is just a fourth of the package, so let's press right on the D-pad and scooch over to Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. Like many people, I had never played this game until the All-Stars version, and while I've become more acquainted with the original Famicom one thanks to NSO, I've still never truly given this game a chance to be completed. So let's give it a Listen, if you know anything about the Lost Levels, it's probably that it's really difficult, and if you don't, it's really difficult. It's not even a game that's hard, but you want to keep playing and get to the end. No, this game just sucks. It's like Pokemon Rumble World. You will die over and over, and okay. All this complaining will be important in a minute, but what did they change? Well, as you may have seen, the Lost Levels has the same art style as Mario 1, simply because that's also true for their 8-bit counterparts. I mean, what else were they supposed to do with this thing? Give it a hat! Not much has changed for Mario 1, only small stuff when necessary, like the new title screen theme. I'm pretty sure this is the only unique song in the game compared to Mario 1's remake, which is kinda sad. It just goes to show how derivative this game really was, especially since the original didn't even have a title screen theme. Most other changes made to the Lost Levels were pretty great though, as they usually dealt with making the game a little easier. I'm sure the devs were really confused as to who made these terrible levels, but without the ability to change many gameplay features, it was up to them to scour around through the code and improve this awful experience as much as they possibly could. An example of this is the Poison Mushroom sprite. What was once easily confusable with the Super Mushroom is now so obviously bad for you that they don't even cause too much of a threat anymore. Yes, now that I know that this is rat poison, bottle salt, I welcome this change a lot, and it's the small stuff like this that really helps. Another example is in certain castles throughout the game. Some of these castles are pick-a-paths, which are probably some of the worst levels in a video game. In the Famicom Disk System version, you had to guess which way to go, not knowing when the level would repeat if you got the path wrong. Now, the game gives you a sound to let you know if you went in the wrong direction or not. This was also added to Mario 1, but it's more prominent here because half of the time I didn't even know it wanted me to pick a path. Like in the Sky level, the noise was pretty much the only way I could have known that. Like, why? However, there is one extraordinary change that's gotta be the best out of all of these. To give you context, on the Famicom Disk System version, if you beat the first 8 worlds without using warp zones, you would get a star on the title screen. You needed 8 stars to unlock 4 more hidden worlds. Why? Honestly, I've been fairly chill regarding this game's whole existence thing until now, but this is just ridiculous! But thankfully, All-Stars is here to save the day once again. Now, you only have to beat the game 1 time to unlock these worlds. This is a godsend, especially for me, because I don't think I really would have cared to try Worlds A through D if All-Stars didn't do this. Not because I think the game was hard, I just don't like letters. My mortal enemy's name? Letters! Speaking of hidden worlds in All-Stars, there's a secret world 9 that you can play if you beat every level without warping. Nintendo thought this was so hard that in Volume 52 of Nintendo Power, they announced a challenge to all players. Beat World 9 by Halloween of 1993, send a TV screen photo to Nintendo, and they would mail you a special patch of honor. This is such an obscure piece of knowledge, and I think it's pretty neat. Reminds me of the days when Nintendo didn't act as professional as they do now. But don't get your hopes up, because not all of Lost Levels changes are good. Seriously? There aren't many bad changes I came across, only small nitpicks. Originally, the Lost Levels had a few different sprites than Mario 1, like the ground and stuff. I get not having different ground sprites for the Mario 1 and Lost Levels remakes, but these mushroom platforms should have stayed mushroom platforms instead of being just red brick platforms, because in the castle levels, I found myself having to really look for these newly sprited platforms as they blend into the lava. Also, in World 9, the water layering is wrong. How do you miss this? One more thing I want to add is that in some levels of the original Famicom Disk System version, there was a character called Bowser's brother, which had the same functions as Bowser, but had different colors. They removed the palette from All-Stars, even though it's in the game files. To me, this isn't even Bowser's brother anymore. It's simply a common fake Bowser. Come on, Nintendo! Anyways, that's about it for the Lost Levels. Overall, I would much rather play this version of the Famicom Disk System one, no doubt. I mean, pretty much every change here is a good one. Even the bad ones are so minuscule and don't really matter in the long run. And I'd say the devs did a perfect job bringing over Lost Levels to the States, because honestly, they didn't have much to work with. No matter what, the Lost Levels always wasn't going to be the most appealing game. Nintendo was able to market it as difficult to convince people to buy All-Stars, but the backlash it got over here by reviewers and players years down the line, I feel partially wasn't deserved. I get it, the level design isn't good, not at all, but whenever I hear people talk about this game, they compare it to the likes of Mario 1, and while it's super easy to compare it to that game, that's not what the Lost Levels was trying to be. It was meant for super players. It was meant to be hard and unfair, and acting like a poison mushroom is a bad start for a game is correct, but that poison mushroom was meant to be encountered by Mario experts, not new players starting out. So even though the All-Stars devs had to trudge through and playtest 52 of the Lost Level stages, they made it the best it could be. And whether or not that means it's good is up to you, but at least for me, I think it makes this game of the somewhat competent variety. But screw other countries. America is the greatest, the land of freedom, and oh my god. Okay, before I talk about this game, I gotta be honest. I hate Mario 2. Not because it's not a Mario game or whatever, I just hate its gameplay and features and family and everything it stands for. For the longest time, I'd always known of it, but barely played it, especially compared to the other more well-known NES classics. I was just never really interested in it, and that led me to never really getting past 1-2. In fact, the first time I ever got past that level was this playthrough of All-Stars. I also beat the whole game without knowing how many worlds it had. I think I needed this. God, I knew nothing about this game. Anyways, Mario All-Stars. We once again open on a new title screen theme, except this time it's not that interesting because the original already had one. Like most of this game's other songs, it was just a remaster of the original. That's fine and all, I just wanted to point it out. The art style was incredibly improved over the original, and now we're finally out of Mario 1 purgatory. I was never a fan of the old designs in Mario 2, except for the 4 main characters. I thought their color palettes were kind of fun, but I still think All-Stars did a good job modernizing them as well. And I have to commend them for not taking the Mario sprites from Mario 1 to make his design consistent. Each and every one of these games feels different, and is styled differently. So it's nice to see once again that the developers are respecting that. Right off the bat, the first thing I noticed on the character select screen is that Peach was entirely recolored here to make her appearance more consistent throughout the 4 games. This is where I think Nintendo kind of fumbled. I liked Peach's old red head design of the original NES games, and while that only existed due to color limitations, I still would have preferred her look to be based off of those. I get they might have done this for marketing reasons, but I don't know, I just don't like it. Also, Toad's vest just makes his running animation look weird. Anyways, in regards of other changes to the game, there weren't as many as Super Mario Bros. 1 and the Lost Levels because the original NES version was already more complex than those. One of the first things I noticed was that the waterfall animation was changed. Thank God, the old one gave me a migraine every time I looked at it. Doctor, I gotta be honest with you. I'm having some real headache problems.
Bro, just drink more water.
No! Also throughout the game, the boss arena walls were changed. Let's do it. Nah, in reality these tiles were based off of Nintendo's old NNB bricks, made to compete against Legos. Who won in the end? Well, I don't think that's too hard to figure out. The only major gameplay change made to this version is a good one. Now, when you die, the game prompts you with the character select screen, when in the original, you either had to beat the level you were on or get a game over to switch them. This is extremely helpful because in situations like this, yeah, I'm picking Luigi, this level's like impossible with Toad. Honestly, games like 3D World could have benefited from this feature. I mean, it literally has the same characters as Mario 2, so having a character select screen after you die to pick a better moveset for the current level you died on isn't too much of an ask, but they somehow mess us up twice. All-Stars did this 30 years ago, come on guys! Oh, hold on. Oh my god!
911.
Yeah, I just got a ransom letter talking about the subcon theme in Mario All-Stars.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. The original theme was a remix of the Mario 1 theme, so.
Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. But aren't ransom letters supposed to have a threat? Well, overall, I think this version of Mario 2 is way better than the original. Sure, some of the design choices are a little weird, but I think it polishes up the gameplay quite a bit, and since I never played this game anyways, we have a winner here. However, there's one more game in Mario All-Stars to cover. A game so incredible, it is still regarded as one of, if not the best games ever made. Super Mario Bros. 3. And what a remake it is. Mario 3 is interesting in this package because it's by far the least changed game in this entire collection, yet the newer version still resonates with me so much more. It sort of follows the trend of Mario 2 in that way. Both 2 and 3 have way more complex art styles than Mario 1, simply because the NES devs were more experienced at using the NES's hardware at that point, compared to the 5 NES developers who worked on Mario 1. Mario 3 was just so well programmed for the time, and had so much content. You could easily argue that Mario 3 was the most bang for your buck game on the NES. Playing it was a treat, and still today is super fun and neat to look back on. And all All-Stars does is improve this experience. Without even thinking of new changes to Mario 3 itself, I can already think of improvements. As I previously mentioned, Mario All-Stars added saving functionality, but it helps the most in Mario 3 especially. The other 3 games in the package are somewhat short, and could definitely be beaten in one sitting, even if you go for 100%. However, Mario 3 is a whole different beast. Honestly, I've always wondered how you were even supposed to play every level in this game back in the day, because it was just so long and still lacked saving functionality. And now, it's here and is super useful. The only complaint I have about it is that when you save in a world, your progress only saves at the start of that world, so if you saved right before the World 3 castle, you would start back at 3-1 when you returned. However, since Mario 3's levels are fairly short, it's not very hard to blast through the rest of the world you're on. Anyways, let's actually open the game, and once again, it's improved with music way better than the original Silence. It's yet again another remix of the Mario 1 underwater theme, but it's more upbeat and poppy. It fits the wacky shenanigans of Mario and Luigi on the title screen fairly well. Also, there's a new option to play the battle mode the game had, and used to be exclusive to multiplayer on the world map, whenever a player would interact with another. There's even a new item that swaps the players' power-up forms and locations. To be honest, there are little to none big changes affecting gameplay here. I mean, to be fair, Mario 3's gameplay is pretty much perfect when it comes down to it, so I don't blame them here for not adding many new features and other such things. But what makes this version better than the NES version for me is so obvious. It's the art style! I know I previously touched on my silent war of Mario 3 versus Mario World that's always going on in my head. I often find myself playing World more, but when I crave short and sweeter levels, I choose Mario 3. One of the main points I have is that World's art style is perfection. It looks so much better than Mario 3's bare-bone 8-bit pixel art. But this 16-bit version, it changes a lot. This is on par with Mario World's art style now. It perfectly translates Mario 3's original style into a more colorful, bright, and detailed experience to the eyes. This doesn't necessarily let it win over World in a landslide for me, as I still like World's art style more, but it is so much closer now. Although, to be fair, the art styles do offer different things. Mario 3's art style is more colorful and polished, all while making sure it stays true to its 8-bit variant. Mario World was allowed a fresh new take with vibrant, but in a way, more relaxed colors. Even just looking at Mario's hat color, in 3 it's a bright and proud red, whereas World has a more washed out magenta tint to it. However, due to the later release of All-Stars in the SNES's life, its relationship with World ends up paralleling the relationship between the first 3 NES titles. Throughout the lifespan of a console, the technology is able to be used in better ways, so the graphics end up, usually, looking better over time. And I find myself enjoying smaller details in 3 more than World, like the backgrounds. Heck, even Mario 1 and All-Stars backgrounds look better at times, specifically the nighttime ones. You could argue that the lesser detailed backgrounds are a result of Mario World's specific art style, but I feel it would fit right at home in all of these games. Overall, Mario 3 may not have changed much. After all, the game was only 3 years old in North America at that point, but when many considered perfect, All-Stars was still able to improve, even if it was only in the graphics department. But again, all these small or big changes in each of these 4 games continues to make a better and better package. Super Mario All-Stars' unique take on these kinds of remakes in quality is why I believe it is one of, if not the most revolutionary game of all time, even when nothing should be revolutionary about it. After the game's release in 1993, critics swarmed all over it. One review in particular, a quote from Nintendo Magazine System, rating it a 95 out of 100, explains exactly how I feel about this game, and the impact it had at the time. It goes without saying that this package houses 3 of the most popular video games ever. The 4th, The Lost Levels, is simply a great bonus. Mario has earned his status as the character synonymous with Nintendo, indeed video games in general, because the depth of his games are beyond compare. Each title is perfectly designed and all, excepting the lost levels have perfectly graded learning curves. Through this, players get accustomed to the central character, then freely take him above and beyond the initial expectations of the game, and just look at those graphics. You've got to have this. The sales of Super Mario All-Stars reflected its reception as well. It sold over 10 million copies worldwide throughout its life, cementing it as the second best-selling SNES game, 10 million copies behind Super Mario World. When I think of the SNES, I think of these two games. It's like they were meant for each other. These games were the first I ever got for the system, and are still regarded as some of the best of all time, and Nintendo knew this, so in December of 1994, Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World released in North America. This is the first of a few of this game's re-releases. It simply adds Mario World and was included with some SNES systems. Unfortunately, no box art was ever created for North America, so we only have this somewhat bland cartridge to go off of. I think it's a little worse than the original, but to me, this has to be the perfect SNES game. I mean, come on, 5 Mario games in one. This is incredible. Barely anything was changed about Mario World, but there are a few things to mention. The title screen is now orange instead of blue, Yoshi's there too, obviously Mario World was added to the select screen, and since this game was made for 4 buttons instead of the other games' 2, the controls option is gone, and replaced with a cute little Yoshi icon. The only thing changed in the actual game was the Luigi sprites. Yep, to differentiate Luigi from Mario more, they redid every single animation for him. They look more stilly and awesome. I forgot to mention that this was done to Mario 1, Lost Levels, and 3, where in those original games, Luigi was also only a palette swap of Mario. That's about it for this version, and even though its add-ons don't have many changes, it adds the cherry on top to an already nearly perfect Mario experience. Throughout the late 90s and 2000s, Mario All-Stars seemed to be left in the shadows. Despite the Wii having Virtual Console, only the original 4 games were released on there for around $5 to $6. To be fair, this makes sense for 2 reasons. 1, not many people would buy the original games if you could buy all 4 in one, and 2, the pricing would be sorta weird. The regular SNES game price was around $8, but would it stay there? If all the original 4 games combined costed $21, would they up the price to that? It was likely due to issues like these that Nintendo decided to never re-release the game on Virtual Console. And I guess in the meantime of doing all that nothing, they forgot about Mario 1's 25th anniversary in 2010, so they just decided, put it in a case! Super Mario All-Stars Anniversary Edition for Wii. Apart from being my mother's maiden name, it was also literally the most bare-bones thing they could have done for the big old 25th. Sure, it came with some bonuses, like this keep case and a soundtrack CD. Don't worry, half of the songs were sound effects from Mario 1, I'm not joking. But it was an exact emulation of the SNES game, down to having the SNES controller icons on the menu screen and everything. Come on, guys! And it wasn't even the Mario World version. That literally wouldn't have taken any more work to do. It's important to note that this was the first way I was ever able to play Mario All-Stars. I was never the same ever since. However, 10 years later for Mario's 35th anniversary in 2020, Nintendo actually did lots of things, like releasing Mario 35, My Nintendo Rewards, Mario 3D World with Bowser's Fury, and the biggest, most notable game, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Alongside its launch in September that year, Super Mario All-Stars was added onto the NSO SNES app on Switch, which was now possible since you paid for an entire service and not individual games. And what's awesome to me is that Super Mario All-Stars was so revolutionary of a package that this monstrosity of a collection was allowed to inherit its name! This game sucks! There was barely any effort put into upgrading Mario 64 Sunshine and Galaxy for Switch. Mario 64 isn't even in widescreen, and I get N64 games look gross in widescreen, but I at least put a toggle! No matter what, I played a lot of 3D All-Stars. And despite its weird expiration date in March of 2021, it allowed for new players to experience these old 3 masterpieces. However, that's not where All-Stars' journey ends. You see, All-Stars may have gotten only a few re-releases, but it is 4 games in one, so what if Nintendo just re-released one of them? Well, meet the Mario Advance series, a GBA line of 4 games, 2 of which are the SNES versions of Mario 2 and 3 respectively. Mario World is here too, it's not specifically the one from All-Stars. Luigi does have different sprites and a moveset here, but they aren't from All-Stars. The third advanced game is Yoshi's Island, which is obviously pretty good too, but that was in Mario All-Stars, so I won't mention much of it. The reason for the lack of Mario 1 and Lost Levels was likely due to the Game Boy Color having a remake of Mario 1 with all of the Lost Levels in it already, dubbed Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. Honestly, the Advance series is usually viewed as sort of a spiritual successor to that game. Plus, Mario 1 was actually released for the GBA and the classic NES line of games, albeit without the inclusion of lost levels. Thank God. Anyways, onto the actual Advance series. We start with Super Mario Advance, the remake of Mario 2 from the SNES. The biggest change you can see right off the bat is the washed-out colors. This had to be done because the GBA is in fact not a Super Nintendo. The washed-out colors merge better with the dimmer screen of the GBA as well, but sadly, when I go back to play this, I usually find myself preferring the SNES version due to the better colors. This could have easily been the best version of Mario 2 because it includes new content like collectibles and even an outstanding remake of the Mario Bros. Arcade game. But I can just as easily play that in Superstar Saga, and if I'm really in the Mario 2 mood, the rest of the game in All-Stars. This still doesn't make the game bad, not at all, but these small downsides kind of void the possibility of me and many others preferring this game over the SNES one. The same cannot be said of Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3. My god, what is this name? It's perfect. This game was severely benefited from its later release date on the GBA. Now that the GBA SP released, which had a backlight, the colors are so much closer to Mario All-Stars' palette now, and while there is still a difference, it doesn't really change too much. Mario Advance 4 is an incredible package. It still includes the Mario Bros. Remake, like the other 3 Advance games, but also takes advantage of the e-reader, something Lincoln could never do. The e-reader added a whole new world of levels, 73 to be exact, with collectibles added as well. Sadly, only 32 levels can be saved in the game at a time, so not all could be accessed on one console. Why was this locked behind a poor man's Oilers number? These new Advance games were pretty good, and incredible in the case of Advance 4, but due to the failure of the e-reader, these aforementioned 73 levels were basically lost to time unless you wanted to spend countless dollars on the e-reader and its many cards. Luckily for us, Nintendo is sometimes a good company, and both of these games were re-released on the Wii U Virtual Console, Advance 1 in 2014, and Advance 4 in 2016, with all of the e-reader levels unlocked from the start. This is incredible! Now anyone can play these levels. Really? Nah, I'm just kidding. The Wii U shop obviously did shut down in March of 2023, but a month prior, the NSO expansion pack received GBA games, and included from the start, you got all 4 Advance games. And Advance 4 did have the World E levels. Now anyone with the expansion pack has easy access to the definitive Mario 3 experience. It's a shame this had to be lost to time for 10 years, but now, a new generation of players has been introduced to the wonders of Advance 4, and many more to its predecessor, Super Mario All-Stars. Woo! What a look back on Super Mario All-Stars that was. Replaying this game made me respect those 4 parts so much more, and made me respect retro gaming in general over the years. It's one of, if not my favorite retro games of all time, especially when we're talking about the Mario World re-release, and its lasting impact on the video game industry as a whole cannot be understated. Super Mario All-Stars will forever be one of the most legendary gaming experiences of all time. Oh shoot, I left the printer plugged in.